You want to know the secret behind every single successful e-commerce brand? It starts with choosing the right product. And in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to develop product ideas and to build a brand from scratch so that you can scale it to 7 or even 8 figures. Hey, my name is Patrick O'Driscoll. I'm the co-founder and CEO here at TVG, where we actively work with 7, 8-figure e-commerce brands. My team works with brands that are in the complete startup phase to doing millions of dollars per month. But before I even think about scaling a brand, we first need to make sure that the foundations are in place so that you actually have a brand that can scale. So whether you're starting a new brand from complete scratch or you have a brand and you're looking to build out new product lines, I am going to walk you through exactly how to test and validate before wasting a ton of cash on a failed product. This will be a series of videos, and the first video today is all about how to research and validate a product idea. Your product is arguably the most important decision that you can make as you start up a brand, because it's very difficult once you buy inventory, once you start marketing, to completely change or pivot. So there's some things and tactics that we'll discuss today to test things before investing a ton of money, buying inventory, and ultimately failing before you even start. So the first step is figuring out what game you want to play. When it comes to e-commerce, scaling a brand online, there's a variety of different styles of e-commerce brands. I'm going to break down about 7 of them to start to get your ideas thinking about what game you want to play. There's pros and cons for each single individual section here. But first is high LTV consumable products. High LTV consumable products are typically supplements, skincare, snacks, food items that basically a customer buys. Typically it's on the smaller ticket scale, $20 to maybe $80 per item, and they can buy it multiple times throughout the year. So the pro of this is that it's high lifetime value. You get high repeat customer purchase rate, but the cons of this is, of course, you need to acquire customers as cheap as possible. So that's number one, the high lifetime value consumable product. The second is the razor blade strategy. I like this a lot. So you think about if you go and buy a razor and a blade, typically you get the starter kit and then you have to replace the blade every month or every few months. That's common in many successful e-commerce brands. Think water filters. So you get the water filter kit, but then you have to switch out the filter every 3 to 6 months. Maybe coffee machines, the razors themselves. This is great because you can basically acquire a customer with a starter kit and then they have to replenish every few months so that you have that high lifetime value. Third, high ticket items. Think furniture, think mattresses, think cold plunges, think saunas. These are typically $500, $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 high ticket e-commerce products that you really only buy once, but the sale price is very high. So typically we're able to acquire that customer profitably, but you're not getting that high LTV portion that you might get from some of those previous options. Fourth, we have fashion and seasonal collections. So with fashion, you might have drop culture. You have to move inventory every single season because maybe you're switching up your products that are on hand. Fashion often has a ton of different SKUs, ton of variability, and that's often a complex and very competitive brand to start, but it certainly can work if you can really figure out your brand and have a niche audience of customers that will buy from you very frequently. Next, we have digital products and subscriptions. Now, this is still considered e-commerce, but think a subscription app or an info product. This is definitely something that's great because it's high margin, right? You're not really stocking inventory. Think apps, think subscriptions, think courses or content. That's just one-time purchase, and basically it's 100% margin. Now that comes with its own issues and struggles, but you can have a digital product that's basically zero overhead and strictly a digital product. 6 is personalizing custom products. So this is typically like gifts. So think like we work with a brand that has custom pet portraits. So you send in pictures of your pet, and then the company literally paints the portrait of the dog and sends it back to the customer. Think Etsy. Like Etsy has a lot of brands like this, but you can certainly do this on Shopify. Comes with its own complexities, but certainly an option that you can start a brand with. 7th is like niche hobby and like specific interests. So things like crafts, DIY, think like pet products. If you have a very niche hobby, you can kind of lean into and create a bunch of products that serves that niche. That could be very effective. That ranges from one-time purchase items to consumables, but just think about the different style and how we go about marketing things. All these different styles of e-commerce brands, the way we approach them and scale them are a lot different. So just think about what game you want to play, because that might help you in figuring out what products you want to eventually launch. So now that we've figured out what game we want to play for e-commerce, let's now start to research trends. So trends are obviously, with certain trends, they come and go. They're a flash in the pan success. Maybe there's something that's trending, maybe some event took place, maybe a celebrity wore something and a trend spikes. And so what we want to figure out is really what are some longer term trends. We don't want to have something that's going to be successful for a month, 2 months and go away. We really want something that maybe we're at the early phase of the trend. And there's certain things that are just going to be evergreen trending that customers will always need. But I think the best way to approach a e-commerce brand is trying to figure out what's something that's on the cusp of being trending and how can you stand out in that market. Over the last few years, we saw this with a lot of hydration hydration products. We saw this with greens products. We saw this a ton in the supplement space, which is where I work with a lot of our clients in. That's where you saw athletic greens. That's where you saw liquid IV. You saw energy drink companies explode because this whole category was starting to trend upward. So how do you find trends and what is actively trending? So I like to look at Google Trends. Google Trends is a great tool. You can search up keywords. You can search what is exactly trending. Go look on TikTok. What products are trending on TikTok? See how many videos are being created for certain products or different categories. You can go and look at Pinterest trends. So Pinterest is an amazing platform. You can see what are people pinning? What are they interested in? We need to figure out what's on the rise and what's going to continue to grow over the next 3, 5, 10 years, because we want to make sure that your brand has that longevity. And the other thing to consider when you're looking at trends, is this something that's just seasonal? Is there a annual part of this? Maybe it's only popular during the Christmas time or during spring or summer. Figure out, when you're researching trends, is it going to be evergreen? So can a customer buy this at all times, or is it really seasonal? Because again, you're choosing the game you want to play here, and a very hard game, for example, to play would be like Christmas decorations. Want all of your money made in November, right? If you think of a very extreme situation like that, I really like to personally, it's just my 2 cents, as I'm looking at brands that are successful that we work with, they're able to be purchased 365 days of the year. They have high repeat customer rate. We're able to get them in the door profitably through our marketing. So again, really important to just figure out, is your product actually trending? Do customers actually want this? Now that we've done some research in the market, seeing what's trending, maybe some trending topics, let's think about the customer, because really the best way to scale a brand from 0 to 1 million is one product, one offer, one customer. So really leaning into one customer demographic and going really niche with it. One mistake I see brands make is that they start a brand, they're like, who's your customer? And they say everyone. That is a massive issue, because typically it's a lot easier to market and target literally on the ad side a specific customer demographic, whether it's their age, their gender, what they do for work. It's very easy to target those people. So here are a few questions that you can ask yourself once you start to think about a few product ideas. Who is your ideal customer, right? Age, gender, location. What are their main pain points or desires? Where do they spend their time? Are they on social a lot? Are they really outdoors people? What does their day-to-day look like? And then what are their buying habits? Are these high net worth individuals that are able to, spend on things that are maybe luxurious, or are they just looking for affordable solutions? Figuring out who your customer is will really help in not only your product development, but also your pricing strategy down the road. All right, now that we know trends, we've started to brainstorm a customer. Now let's figure out, what does the competition look like? So maybe something's trending and there's a ton of competition flowing into the market. Let's figure out, that doesn't mean you don't have to create a product. You do not need to be number one. I want to be very clear. We're talking about launching a product, launching a business. There's a term called blue ocean or red ocean that describes competition. Blue ocean is that basically there's no competitors, right? If you think about a shark in blood, essentially. A blue ocean, there's not a lot of competitors. There's a lot of opportunity. And usually you have those first movers that go and test the market. For a market that's more red, more bloody, there's a lot of competition. Now that doesn't mean you can't enter that market. You just need to enter that market in a very specific, unique, and niche way so you can carve out your segment of that market. So in this portion here, we're talking about analyzing market demand. There's a few things I like to do to figure out what's going on in terms of your competitors. So first, go to Google Keyword Planner, figure out some keywords for the types of products, the niche that you're looking into, and figure out what those competitors are. Who is ranking the highest? Who's getting the most traffic? Another thing you can do is, once you start to figure out who your competitors are in this space, you can go over to SimilarWeb and you can see their traffic, and you can roughly calculate how much sales they're making on a monthly basis. Let me be very clear. If there are competitors in your market and they're making millions of dollars, that means that this product is in demand. So it's not a bad thing, but if we're really trying to get into a space that is of high competition, I will talk to you about how we actually break through the noise and create our own segment of that audience. The next thing I like to do is look at Amazon. Amazon's very cool because you can obviously see how many of this product were ordered in the last 30 days. So go on Amazon, look at competitors. You should really build a list of all your competitors. Look at all their social medias, look at all their websites, look at their Amazon store, look at their presence everywhere, and you can start to see what's working, what's not working. Now, I'm not really a huge fan of Alibaba or AliExpress because that's really with dropshipping culture, but you can go on those platforms and see what products are trending, what's being purchased, and just see how customers are basically talking about those products on those sites as well. Okay, now that you have analyzed the market, you should have figured out what your competitors are. Now let's validate the product idea. So maybe that you're coming into a crowded market, but you have a very niche or very specific idea of how you want to come into that market, whether it's the customer you're going after, whether it's your unique selling props. What I like to do to validate your product idea is obviously first, make sure that the product is currently in demand. But second, now look at all the issues and problems that your competitors are facing. So you should have a big list of all your competitors, big list of their websites, big list of their Instagram, socials, basically all their presence. And now we want to look into their reviews. what are customers complaining about? Because oftentimes if someone's buying from like a big brand, let's say Liquid IV, but they complain about the sugar content or they complain about the taste, the flavor, then you can think about, oh, that's my unique angle that will help me stand out. So look at all the flaws, what the market is saying about your competitors. That should give you an idea about your unique selling prop, how you can enter the market, what are customers complaining about. A few things to see where customers are talking and how they're reacting to brands is obviously in the review section on their website. Now, some brands do hide some negative reviews, so you might not be able to see the full picture there. Amazon can give you a better picture of reviews and everything about the products there. But then third, I like to go on Reddit or Twitter or any other kind of forum sites. Maybe there's some other forum sites, but Reddit and Twitter, you can search up the product, see how people are complaining about it, see if they're loving it, see if there's any flaws, see if customers are requesting changes and maybe the brand isn't kind of listening to those changes. Because if customers are hungry for, let's just say, a hydration product, but they want natural flavoring, then you can create that product and present that to the market and take over that share with that specific unique selling prop. So we want to make sure, is your product in demand? We don't want to create something that's not in demand. Ideally, there are competitors in the market, and then you need to figure out your unique selling angle, your unique selling prop. How are you going to stand out from all of your competitors? All right, here are a few common mistakes I see entrepreneurs make when they are creating a product. First, they only think about their own personal interests and then get too locked in or just become too in love with their business. They think of it like their baby. I think this is actually can have a bunch of pros, because if you have a personal story or if you clearly are connected to your product, it 100% can work. But first, go through these exercises and make sure that's in demand, make sure you can validate that, look at the competitors, but don't just lean into something because you love it or, without looking at the realities of the market. Because if you just say, I love cats and I'm going to create this cat product, but no one in the market is looking for it, it's not that successful, then, it's very hard to get off the ground. So think about your feelings, think about your personal story. Yes, a product should also reflect your passions. You should be excited to build this business, but don't let that be the only thing. Make sure you do all the research and validation, see what your competitors are doing, so that once you do launch, you will get sales and you're not going to be left with a bunch of inventory that's not moving. Second is thinking that everyone's going to buy your product. It is very few and far between, unless you're a massive company with millions, if not tens of millions of marketing spend to go wide, right? So if you want wide, massive distributions, think about companies that are on basically like Super Bowl commercials that sell to a wide demographic. They need massive distribution. That's expensive to do when it comes to marketing. So you're much better off to basically create a product that's tailored to a very specific individual with very specific pain points and desires, with very specific needs, wants, fears, etc., and just go after that, because you can pierce through the noise and really be the go-to product for that niche of customers. So the more segmented and more specific you can be with your customers, the better for scaling and getting off the ground to go from 0 to 100K a month. And then really the most deadly, worst mistake that you can do is get ahead of yourself. Like if you just speed through all of these steps, and even the next videos that I come out are going to be even more validating your idea. If you just rush, think about a product idea, start to get development, and just rush into it, you're going to fall flat on your face. It's just the reality of it. Really take your time, research, build out all these docs, really document everything. Don't just, think about things and go start to buy and order products. Really document your learnings, run it through ChatGPT, use AI tools. Get another set of eyes, get a friend, get a consultant, get a business partner to look at your ideas here, to really just give you rough feedback. Because I'm a founder, I'm an entrepreneur. I know that I might not have the best perspective on everything if I don't first figure out some other ideas. What are other people thinking about what I'm thinking? Because, maybe someone smarter than me is like, this is an awful idea, here's why. And then I'm like, oh, thank God I did not invest and build this business. All right, now that you have hopefully identified a product category or start to brainstorm some trends you can capitalize on, and the next video that I'll post here will be all about how to actually test your product before even buying your product. So how do we actually go into the market, test some ideas before actually spending tens of thousands of dollars on inventory, and how to actually validate that, survey customers, etc. So stay tuned for that. And if you want, I put together a checklist, basically a document called the 7-Figure Product Blueprint Worksheet. This basically will help you go through all the steps I discussed today, and then you can fill it out yourself, document all your learnings, and you can use that to start to test and iterate on your product. So I'll leave a link down below to download that free worksheet. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to drop a huge like, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys in the next video.